Well, here we are on Friday morning and the day after the previous day.
Yeah.
That's the day after the day that was in it. Was that
Yes.
right, Pat?
A uniquely Irish way of saying yesterday was St. Patrick's Day. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, were you impressed by the outpourings of Irishness that occurred yesterday? I was watching the telly, and my God, there really were some very, very complicated and colourful displays.
Jude, okay, like sometimes it can be a wee bit chit-chatting or whatever word you want to use. But actually, yesterday, myself and my dear wife and my middle son, we ended up in Carnlough in the Glens of Antrim, and we went into this place. I'll even give it a plug, the Glen Cloy Inn, had a lovely meal. And I noticed on the way up yesterday, Jude, we were going through Ballycastle, and we went through Cushendall, Cushendun. God, there's a lot of people walking about with their shamrocks and their green and all the rest of it. So it was quite well celebrated. And I was watching a late show last night. It was on a Thursday night rather than a Friday night.
Yeah.
And they devoted it all to all things Irish, and it was actually very, very good. So,
Jude, I started watching it and I was going to bed. But what was on it was good.
You man, John C. Reilly, and there was Kelly Harrington, who I didn't know, she's the boxer, and I didn't realize she sang Grace, and it was a sort of celebration. She was actually very good, excellent actually, which came as a total surprise.
Yeah.
And John C. Reilly sang Raglan Road.
Oh, did he? Very good.
But for some reason, Americans talking about how much they love Ireland, I know it tends to turn me off a wee bit, but there was a sincerity in John C. Reilly. In fact, I thought at one stage he was actually going to break down. He was chatting about his father and the whole Irish thing, and I think it didn't mean something. And what when somebody sort of goes fake, Jude, you sort of go, Jesus, please go on. No, this is plastic Paddy stuff. But in his case, I don't think it was.
No, I think that we knew that. Remember in that book we had Brian McCabe, very eloquently laying out, what Ireland meant to people, and the fact that they were Americans, of course, but they were Irish Americans, and they felt they had a whole backlog of culture they could plug into, and they were delighted with it. And sometimes you have to be away, as you probably know yourself, Pat. Sometimes you have to be away from Ireland to appreciate the things that we have here, this sort of culture that we have. Mind you, if you were driving through places like a Hull or Doch, you mightn't have found as many plastic. I
can't remember the name of the wee village we came through, and there's definitely it wasn't one of the Fenian variety, because I noticed all the Union Jacks. But there was a band playing, and there was some sort of St. Patrick's Day celebration going on. So
isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Somebody was telling me that Gordon Lyons, is that his name? Is he
was out in White House.
Aye, but I was told that he looked. I didn't see him, but I was told that he looked. From a source I usually trust, I was told that he looked just a bit uncomfortable with the surroundings. Would that be right?
He was interviewed by Andy McClafferty last night on BBC, and everybody else was wearing green ties and stuff like that. Gordon had on I'd say his normal blue one, and so on. And he said Nancy Pelosi made a couple of comments, and he said he put Nancy Pelosi on the right road. And then they talked to Micheál O'Neill. Micheál says, if he thinks he's putting Nancy on the right road, God bless him, type thing.
I say that's about the size. Yes, it was a nice day. Nice. It was lovely weather, or decent weather anyway. And I watched the parades in Dublin particularly, but I mean, it's all over Ireland. Although I must say with RTE, I was a bit cheesed off with RTE because there was only one mention of the North. They showed Downpatrick, where they were putting flowers on Downpatrick and Patrick's grave, as they claim. But they really did go very light, although maybe I find it hard to believe that the towns in the North weren't celebrating in a similar way.
Well, Derry had a huge parade. Absolutely. And by the way, led by the DUP mayor, Graham Wark.
Good for him. Good for him.
Exactly. And apparently very warmly.
I thought, I think this is a bit insidious. It's talking about all the towns of Ireland, and then they show you all the towns of the 26 counties.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Did they not appreciate how much that sticks in the gullet of people like myself and I'm sure thousands of others in North?
Jude, that's one of my big bugbears that, I keep saying, and it's a stupid analogy, but it's only one. If tomorrow morning, well, not if tomorrow morning, that's stupid, but say in the past, Waterford, Wexford, Cork, Kerry and all had been taken over by the Germans after the Second World War, and people there told that they couldn't play hurling and couldn't play GA games in their language and whatever was going to be, what do those people think that the people who surround them, what they think they were going to react like? They just abandon them. Well, that's what happened to Northerners.
Well, that's what they've done. Better days ahead. Better days ahead. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's leave St. Patrick's Day. It'll be another one round in about 5 minutes time. It'll seem like 5 minutes time next year. Anyway, let's talk about things far away. Now, Zanin Zaghari Ratcliffe was released yesterday. Was it yesterday? The day before?
Yesterday. Yeah.
And there was much rejoicing and photographs of her and her husband and the daughter that you missed for 6 years, etc. What do you think? Did you feel that was a happy story, or do you think there's more?
The woman getting released, and Jude, I did get the impression like she was a British Iranian. Or Iranian British, whatever way you want to put it. She was born in Tirana, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
Dude, it's a strange story. Like, I got to admit, I did feel she's been held hostage. I didn't realize that the Brits owed 400 million from the 1970s for, what was it, 1,500 tanks or 500 tanks, what the hell it was, yeah.
Wow.
And that they paid it, and she got released. Now, Mike Pompeo, Trump's former Secretary of State, says he disagreed with us. He says you're basically paying hostage takers, but the money was legitimately owed. Now, if the only thing they had on this poor woman was that the Brits owed us money, well, it was pretty despicable. Hostage take somebody to get money from the government. But the other thing as well, they said she was trying to overthrow the government. Back when she was arrested in 2016. Did I find that a wee bit hard? A woman flies in from Britain, where I'm sure the Iranian security service watched her day and daily. I doubt if she was on a mission to overthrow the Iranian government.
It's hard to know. Certainly, I thought it was pretty rich when they said, "Oh, we're just paying it back at this debt that is 47 years old or something." 394 million I have down here for tanks. That were an order that was never delivered, and which the Shah paid. So we're talking about the days of the Shah.
The Shah, that's a long
time. And they suddenly say, "Why didn't they tell us about that before?" They really are a secretive bunch, There's all these underlayers that emerge at the opportune time. Boris Johnson, of course, waded in with both feet and said she was training journalists. Because elephantine gaff.
Gaff. In other words, to undermine the government with propaganda.
Yeah, but it's interesting the way that has occurred at the same time that the Ukraine's erupted, because the whole problem is Russian gas. They don't have enough. Well, they have none because Russia's going to cut it off or has cut it off. Whereas Iran has got loads of gas, loads of oil. So you can see how geopolitics are kicking in.
I had a laugh when I read the other day that overtures are being made to Venezuela. Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil in the world.
Yeah.
Imagine that. I didn't know that, but they have the largest. So suddenly now the Americans, because of the Venezuelan lurch to the left, turned off their oil and destroyed their economy deliberately. Sanctions and so on. So now they're sort of cozying up to the Venezuelans, and geopolitics. You can see suddenly the Venezuelans are going to be brought into the fold again.
Nobody mentioned either, they didn't mention the fact that this debt was owed, but nobody mentioned the fact that it was, it formed part of a pattern of arms selling by Britain around the world. Britain apparently sells arms to anyone, Saudi Arabians, Russia even. Maybe they have stopped that now, but they were doing it. And there isn't a journalist who raises the question of the morality of that.
Jude, I remember, and I don't remember which one, but there was a Tory politician on Question Time several years back, and was asked about selling arms, and he said, "If we don't sell them, someone else does. So this is real politics. Live in the real world."
I think that's pretty disgusting. That's like saying some guy comes to your door and says, "Listen, will you go out and kill this guy?" And you say, "No, I wouldn't dream of it." He says, "All right, I'll ask that guy next door. I know he'll do it." And you say, "Oh, no, hold on, I'll do it for you." There's no semblance even or pretense of morality there. But I'm glad to see that they're sorting out things with Iran. The one thing I'd leave that with is this, and I know it's an unpopular thing to say because it sort of spoils the fairy tale. But the woman who was held as, you might call it, hostage or whatever, is there a possibility that Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe was a spy?
Anything's possible.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm just struck by the fact that so many of us dismiss this because, we've been told that she wasn't a spy. What did she do, incidentally, there? What was her job?
Well, she was allegedly back visiting relatives. Her family live in. She was born in Tehran, as far as I remember.
Yeah, she might have been. She may well be innocent. I'm just saying there isn't evidence.
Jude, what do you call it? I remember there was a Greville one or something years ago. He was a businessman, but and he was jailed by the Russians, and it was disgraceful and innocent. When he came out, he admitted he was a spy.
Well, you see, we don't know the half of these things, and that's why I tend to be a wee bit dubious, even in the best of circumstances.
Those bad Russians,
It was a heartwarming tale, and the journalists, the reports on it said it's nice to have a piece of really good news in the midst of all the bad news, which is true, of course, in terms of the family. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Brits that she was in doing a bit of spying. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to a man near home, which is Micheál Martin. I think the luck of the Irish deserted Micheál Martin yesterday. Would you say that?
What is there was a friend of mine used to say to me, if you didn't have bad luck, you'd have no luck. Well, Micheál Martin waited for a long time to be Taoiseach. Last year, his opportunity of sitting with was it Joe Biden last year? Yeah, it would have been Joe Biden last year, wouldn't it? Anyway, it doesn't matter, whoever it was.
Couldn't go last year.
I couldn't go last year because of COVID. Here he was on, and so they did. That's right. They did it last year from he said across the Atlantic. This time they had to do it across the street because he got COVID on the morning he was supposed to meet the US president. Now, you talk about ill luck, and Enda McClafferty, I'm back to Enda again. Enda was in Washington, and he says last night the mood in the Irish camp was very downbeat. And you can see why. Dude, no other country in the world gets a full day hogging the American limelight, and it's great for PR, and it's and he knows that thing about soft power. Ireland gets onto the Security Council, the UN Security Council, we small nation like us, and so on, because of a sort of influence we have with various. And one of those things has been well in with the Americans.
Pat, just small correction. We small state.
We small state. All right, okay. I mean, that's one of the things been well in with the Americans. And of course, the other thing is Joe Biden has made it very, very clear that when asked on numerous occasions, I'm Irish, and it does genuinely seem to mean something for him. It's a big. Ronnie Reagan used it for political purposes, but Joe Biden really seems to mean it.
Well, he probably means it, and he's aware of the fact that it's politically good news.
Oh no, but Jude, he came over when he after stopped being vice president, came over to Ireland and spent time.
I know, Pat, but he might have been over. He might have been over enjoying himself and looking up family ties and having a nice time because he genuinely, I think he does feel his heritage as being Irish. But I repeat, he's a politician, and therefore
I'm well aware of that. But only there's some you can smell it away that it's fake.
You see the fakeness of it. I noticed he really gushed on Micheál Martin for what he had done and thanked him so much for taking in so many refugees. I'm wondering, when will this sentimentality regarding the refugees turn to resentment at the practicalities of looking after them?
And it will, Jude, the relevant, if somebody gets charged with a murder or a rape or something, and all them, refugees, we shouldn't have been bringing them in. It's a certainty. But anyway, Jude, the point is, from what I can gather, most Ukrainians don't want to stay. The minute this is all over, they want to go back to their own homes and all the rest. And they had a lovely country by all accounts. And Ukraine is a very civilized place. Apparently, they have lovely buildings, great culture, and so on. And they were doing very well.
Well, meanwhile, if we're going to be welcoming them, or if the South's going to be welcoming them, then they should do it in a full-hearted way and make provision for them one way or another. Now, it might stress the financial system, but that's the name of the game, you know.
Let me throw someone at you. Letterkenny is literally 20 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. The hospital there is the most overused, I don't know what the correct term is in Ireland as we speak. It's joint top of waiting lists and people there this morning in emergency waiting rooms and all the rest. But I would love to know the facilities that were going to be made available if we get 10,000 Ukrainians in and around Letterkenny, that are Donegal, because the facilities simply aren't. We can't even. And by the way, I am welcoming the Ukrainians. Don't take me the wrong way. I think the very least we could do. But somebody needs to seriously ask questions about how we can cope.
Yeah. Did you feel any sorrow for Micheál getting COVID? Big chance.
Now, I on certain political things, I totally and utterly I detest that sort of West Britism, apologists for Northern Ireland type thing that a lot of Fianna Fáilers have these days. But Micheál strikes me as a decent human being on nearly every level, And I thought yesterday, I thought, if you get all the way to Washington, the very least you can do is get a photograph with the president and get all the kudos and get all the American media and fawning all over you.
You may be sympathetic for him, but you managed to chuckle at his speech just the same. I feel sorry for him too, because he's caught there for the next 10 days as well.
10 days, by the way.
But then again, I stop and I think, well, where is he staying? He's staying in somewhere very comfortable. He's not having to
I don't know if I can keep staying there or not, but he was Joe Biden's guest in Blair House, which is apparently a luxurious pad. And if he has to spend apparently he has to spend 5 days in isolation or self-isolating, and then it'll be 10 days before he can fly.
Yeah. Well, he's getting paid all the time he's doing that, so I wouldn't worry. He's on furlough, shall we say? So I wouldn't worry about him too much. To move to another topic, a related topic, I suppose, to our first one, the one industry that has really flourished. Tell me that. What is the one industry that has really flourished since the Ukraine invasion?
Arms industry, I presume.
Exactly. I mean, we're not talking chicken feed here. I was doing a bit of digging in this, and the shares in a Dusseldorf company, based company called Rheinmetall. I don't know how to pronounce it in German, but you get the message.
I get the drift. I get the drift.
Its shares are up 51% before the invasion. 51%. The chief executive says their sales are at an all-time high, up 4.7% to 5.7 billion. 5.7 billion increase. And to put the cherry on top of the cake, last month, the new German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, has announced a 100 billion special fund to boost Germany's neglected military. What's more, lots of European countries like Denmark and Sweden are doing the same thing. So they trade to be in. If you have shares, Pat, put them into
armaments. Jude, well, after Vladimir Putin has done the arms industry in Europe, given it the greatest shot in the arm, because even Finland is now going for it, Sweden's going for it. Because remember that rambling speech he made about 3 weeks ago before the invasion? Well, basically he said that, cut to the chase, that he wanted really to return the USSR. He wanted the return of the USSR. In other words, bringing Finland, Latvia, Ukraine, everybody back onto the fold. So any country that's in that sphere of influence, to use your term, was under threat. Now, the Ukrainian thing isn't going as well as that he thought it was, but basically, I think he thought the West was just going to fall apart, and they would just let him walk in.
Aye. It has had one advantage it has, that it's pulled the EU together, and the Brits with them, and the Americans, of course. So I suppose that's good. I myself don't believe that he's trying to rebuild the USSR. I think he's trying to make sure that Russia is safe from the kind of pressure that, well, for example, there was a place that was bombed in Ukraine yesterday, was a place where the West was in giving military support or advice or whatever. Now, this was not just since the invasion, but this was a permanent feature of things. It was giving military instruction. You know, we don't hear about these things. And we're told that it's he's just invading a defenseless country, and there's so many wheels within wheels. You get to the point where you say, God, there's no point. I'm only scratching the surface of this thing, and I'll never be able to do anything else. Anyway, that's the job to be in now, Pat. Get military equipment and sell it as quickly as you can. Hot cakes, as they say. And it's again the morality of that. Like, if you, Pat, supplied somebody with a weapon, knowing they were going to use it to kill people, you'd be put in jail. You would be put in jail. And yet,
but Jude, what do you think? Boris Johnson is out and Saudi, isn't he? Trying to, and I'm certain on the record, he's talking about oil and all the rest, and increasing. Last Saturday, or was it Friday morning, they executed 81 people in Saudi Arabia. And that's a horrific regime, and he's out kowtowing them. But you can bet under the counter they're selling them more tanks and more Spitfires for Yemen and stuff like that. And but the whole thing now, morality no longer seems to apply for anything. If you can make money, and the famous one, live in the real world.
Yeah, maybe it's always been like that, Pat. Maybe it's always been like that. They say things like, crimes against humanity, and your man's a war criminal. Biden said that Putin's a war criminal. Probably is, because if you define a war criminal as being somebody who kills civilians in the course of a war, deliberately kills civilians. But then, geez, I mean, Harry Truman, Churchill, every single one of them, they killed. Killed. It wasn't just a few.
Something that I find the hypocrisy of Americans in this one. Israel, and I'm deadly serious about it. Israel they used white phosphorus on Gaza. That burns people alive, and so on. And not a word of it. And by the way, remember the day the Israeli army, or not Israel, the Americans moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That very day, the Israeli army, I think, shot dead 52 people and shot and wounded 1,200 others. And not a word of condemnation from a single American politician. Now, do you tell me, and you don't have to sort of, there's the double standards and the hypocrisy, and that is unbelievable.
Well, I want to say something that might be seen as pretty controversial. Well, maybe not, because it's the facts that matter. Israel came into existence by taking land and clearing off a bunch of Palestinians. So the very state is built on a gross injustice, a terrible injustice, and it's never going to be fixed. So the best they hope for is a two-state solution.
And the Israelis don't want that.
Because it's
they want to dominate
concession. God save us, I don't think morality, a lack of morality, is a new thing. I think it's always been there. Okay, let's move to the P&O Ferries thing. P&O yesterday, they were in a bit of a tizzy because they were told no ferries are to sail. We're not saying we're not going into liquidation, but I'm telling you, there's no ferries going to sail. And right enough, they didn't. And then yesterday, they fired 800 people, the whole staff, everybody, out on their rear end of the street. And what are they going to do? No, they're not going to stop trading or shipping people or material. They are going to get it cheaper. Right. What's your view, Pat?
It's classic capitalism, Jude. It's extreme.
I agree.
It's what fire and rehire.
Yeah.
Jude, when they were making big money, there was, but the minute they lose a bit of money because of COVID and so on, right? Suddenly, but by the way, Jude, when I was in my other life, I was a manager, or an executive anyway. And one of the rules that we had was, I was told, if you were making somebody redundant, you didn't make a person redundant, you made the position redundant. But in other words, if the job was there, you couldn't make them redundant. Or, by the way, the way you got around it was to retitle the job as a different type of job. But here, the owners of P&O are making no attempt, but they're saying blatantly, look, we're firing you and we're getting other people in at a cheaper rate, and that's it. That's our business model. That's what we're going to do. And there's no, and they've gone about it in a particularly thuggish way, sending in private security firms with handcuffs and all the rest to push staff off boats and all the rest. Talk about heavy-handed. And the PR, I don't know who came up with this strategy, but the PR behind it is atrocious.
Well, it's as you say, it's capitalism in action, and that's how capitalism operates. The idea is that you provide a service of some kind, and that you may spend the least money yourself in doing it, and you ask the biggest amount of money you can from the people. But again, I seem to remember a Bob Dylan song a long, long time ago, which had a line which was something to the effect, and they moved the business down Mexico Way, was it? Or yeah, Mexico Way, where the people work nearly for nothing. It's quite finding places that don't. That's what surprises me about Ireland, actually, the south of Ireland particularly. Very fortunate with the IT stuff. There must be, a genuine quality to what they're doing, or there must be a whole host of reasons for it, because Irish people will not work for the kind of money that people in China or
well, somebody said the other day, they're high-end, high-spec, high-tech jobs. You don't, it's not, you don't walk in off the street to do these jobs. And the whole Irish education system, Jude, I think we've had that discussion before. And the Republic of Ireland, nearly everybody's geared towards doing a degree. If you went looking for a plumber or an electrician in Donegal, you have a better chance of finding, a man in the moon. All the education system in the Republic has become very, very academic.
Well, I mean, I've got views of that too, but we won't go into it. But certainly, the south of Ireland seems to have hit the sweet spot. There's so many things that are right, and the companies coming in. I mean, I would take all the things they say about, we're very delighted to be here, and it's the warmth of people, and take that with a large pinch of salt. But apart from that, the Irish people do seem to have hit all the right notes, which is good. It's good. The last thing was, you were wondering with the EU was, could the EU not do something better? Simon Coveney was suggesting that Russia had underestimated the extent to which the EU was cohesive in its response to the invasion of Ukraine. You feel that's over egging it a bit?
I do agree, and I do think the Russians have been taken a surprise. They didn't think the Germans would go for the Gazprom thing. I don't think they thought that they'd take them off the switch system, or whatever the hell they call that system, the banking system. Putin was on yesterday morning and sort of admitted that these things are really hitting Russian economy big time. But he made it out the evil West. Now, but Jude, and I understand what Coveney's saying, but when you sit and watch, as I did, and I've stopped watching, Jude, I really have stopped watching. Buildings getting blown to bits, and there's people inside, and you watch these a wee fella the other day walking with his wee car, and he's only 4, and I had tears in his eyes, and I'm going, Jesus, I can't take that, and I'm sitting saying, is this the best we can do? Say sanctions, No, should there be a no-fly zone and say, look, you've hammered these people long enough. These are civilians; they're not armed. You're blown up buildings. They even put a missile into a theater where there was a bunker where people were hiding, or I don't know. Hiding's probably not. Sheltering's probably the correct word. And the Russians said we didn't do it deliberately. Not bloody half. They didn't. They knew they were there. And you were talking about the definition of war crimes. Well, when you put a missile into a building where there's civilians, that's a war crime.
What puzzles me, Pat, and we'll just leave it at this, I think. What puzzles me is, how come, if sanctions are effective, right? And if they really bite and make it impossible almost for the Russians to invade or continue invading Ukraine.
Yeah.
What's the difference in that and sending up jets to shoot down? I mean, they're supplying arms, and Putin's warning China not to supply arms, and you know, the West dynamic. If it was effective, then you know, you think the Russians wouldn't? In one case, if they had a no-fly zone, there was a danger of nuclear weapons being used.
Yeah.
If we are saying these sanctions are effective, surely the same thing would apply. Could he not then say, well, I'm not going to, if you're going to keep this up, I'm going to use nuclear weapons?
Yeah, well, I presume you can threaten it. But Jude, what is it somebody said the last day? Only a complete lunatic would consider using nuclear weapons because they know the other side's got them. It's mutually destructive. So,
well, like, it's the old explosive vest thing. You know, you're going to go with it. You're going. Well, everybody's going to go with it. It's not
go
just
with it, exactly. So unless and you'd like to think that there'd be a couple of generals who are saying, hey, but if Putin orders the codes, maybe having the guts to say we're not doing this. You know, and but anyway, Jude, no, just you know what I was thinking. And I agree. Look, it's so complex, and there's so, as you said, wheels within wheels. But you know, when you see all of that, and you sort of say, right, sanctions sound so puny when you see a building and human beings getting blown to bits. You know, and like, and you sort of say, is there nothing more we can do? By the way, before we finish, Jude, I'd like to congratulate you on your new lock room behind you.
I have been
very nice. I'm thinking you didn't do it yourself.
No, I didn't do it myself. I have been gentrified.
Yes, I see.
And there's not a thing I can do. I feel that the walls are bare, and jeez. But anyway, modern life. You know, I'm just a dot on the arch
on the horizon
universe. Listen, one last thing. We should tell both our listeners or our viewers that we're very open to people making suggestions for topics that they'd like to hear us discuss. Because I have a feeling that one or two of them have done that in a sort of a half-hearted way. And of course, I then forget it.
So, by the way, now you mentioned it, and I'll put it on record. Robert Andrews from Derry has suggested we discuss nuclear energy and the reason why does everybody running away from it.
Oh,
now, what I know about nuclear energy, I would have to go and look it up.
Yeah, who said that, Pat? Who asked for that?
A guy called Robert Andrews. He sent me a thing. He says, "Why don't you seriously discuss why the fear in this part of the world about nuclear energy?"
Okay.
Because he's on the basis even look at what's happening. Our dependence on Russians.
Okay. I got it. Yeah. It is a good one, Ari. Okay, right. We might do it next week or next Monday. Okay, Pat. Thanks very much.
All the best, Jude. Okay, bye.